Okay, today I'm just gonna do a small little video on centering. Um, so I'm gonna just do a small amount of clay. This is about 1 pound of clay, and that this kind of size of a ball seems to be like a good place to start. It's not too small. It's not too large. If your hands are bigger than mine, you could go up to a pound and a half. If you felt like your fingers were going to have a struggle getting inside the pot as you center. So we're going to throw a cylinder. That's the best place to start when you're starting to learn to center. And so I painted my board blue so y'all can see my white clay, so I hope that helps. I'm going to start out by just gently wetting the board. So a little tiny bit of water. If it's shiny, go ahead and wipe it off because that's too much. You should just feel your hand kind of stick as you try to slide it down your board. And then you're just going to slap it in the middle. I didn't really get it in the middle, so I'm going to try again. There, that's better. Okay, so the way I center is it's a 3-step process. And this was taught to me by my teacher Katani at UNCG way back in the day. If you're on a kick wheel, you can do this slowly with your foot. I am on a kick wheel. If you are on an electric wheel, you're going to have to do this with your hand. So we're just going to start to gently pat with this part of your hand. Patting it down into a cone shape. Well, a pancake, but with a little bit more height in the middle. And you want to do it pretty evenly and slowly, because if you hit it too hard, you see I just made a dent. And that's going to cause you a lot of problems when you're trying to center. So I'm going to take that out now. So go slowly. See how slowly I'm going. Just take your time. Have a nice little pancake like that, you can stop and we'll get started with our 3-step process. Okay, this also helps. You're already pre-centering your clay when you're doing this patting technique, but also if you have any air pockets in your clay, a lot of times those will present themselves in this stage, and you don't have to worry about them coming out later. Okay, so I'm going to start kicking, so you would start spinning your wheel. And I always tell my students it's a medium speed. When you go as fast as those electric wheels can go, you kind of lose a little bit of your control. So you just want to go, maybe start out medium, but faster for the centering part for sure. And I'm just going to get a little bit of water. I don't use a lot of water. Okay. I'm just going to wet down my clay. And I'm going to start. So I'm throwing right-handed. So I'm going to use my left hand on the bottom and my right hand on top. And I'm just going to make an indentation in the side of this piece of clay like that. Okay. This is a ridge that's going to let my hands get up underneath the clay and pull it over. So that's what we're going to do next. I'm going to wet both of my hands, and I'm going to put my palms together like this, and I'm using this part of my hands, palms together, and I'm going to press forward. And I'm just going to hold here until I feel the clay start to shift, okay? And then I'm going to put one hand on top, curving it around, and the other one on top, and I'm just going to press down, pressing the clay down. And see, I'm feeling, you can see this right here. That's that dent I made when I was showing you what not to do. So the clay has a memory, and it remembers. It tends to remember, anytime you push it into a direction, it tends to remember that. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the first step. So I'm going to put one hand on top of the other. We're going to make a nice little ridge here. See that? And then again, palms together, like that. And we're just gonna press forward. And again, I'm gonna hold here until I feel the clay start to shift. And notice how solid my hands are. They're not moving. They're moving a little bit, but not much. So if you see your hands moving around like this, stick your elbows on your hip bones and just press down until the clay moves into your center. And then also, if I get this kind of stuff on my back, I just go ahead and scrape it up with a rib, because I don't like to have the mess on my wheel head where I can't see what's happening. Okay, so now we're gonna go hand on top, and you can use your fist. We're pressing down. Okay. And notice how slow I'm going and how much control I have. If you can slow down, sometimes it helps with this centering process. Okay, now I've got that little crater in the middle, and I know that happens to a lot of us, and it can be a problem later on. So I'm gonna try to just erase that right now before it becomes a problem. So I'm just gonna press this out like that. And that way I don't have the crater there. Okay. So all I did was hold this here, and using these two fingers, you can see where the clay is on my fingers. I'm just pressing down and pulling back a little bit like that. Okay. All right, I'm going to wet the clay just a little bit, and I'm going to go in the side again, and you can make your little ridge there. Palms together. We're going to push up and in, and I'm going to stay here until my hands steady. Good. And then I'm going to clean up my wheel again, and I'm going to press down with my fist. Good. And I've got that little crater again. I'm pressing too hard with a part of my hand. I need to loosen that up. So if you keep finding that you're getting a crater, notice where the pressure is in your hand. And I know where it is in mine. And I'm going to pull my hand up, and you're going to be able to see where it is. It's right there. Right here. This area is making that crater. So I'm going to really try to loosen that pressure the next time I go down like that. Okay. And again, we're going to go in, make our little ridge. Palms together, push in and up. And I'm just going to hold here until I feel the clay shift into my center. And you'll feel it. It's when the clay doesn't push against you anymore. And I think we're almost centered. So I'm going to put my hand, and I'm going to press in. And this time I'm going to put my hand like a blade on here. And this is going to allow me not to get that crater. So if you find also that you keep getting that crater, you can blade your hand, and that will not happen because your hand is flat across. Okay, I think we're almost there, but I'm going to go one more time because I see a little wobble right there, and I want to make sure we're totally centered. So we're going to go into the side here. And I know what I'm making, so I'm going to center for making a cylinder, a small cylinder like a cup or a mug. And one more time down, and I'm going to blade my hand again. And so I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to center for a small cylinder or cup. So we're going to go kind of low. I'm going to go one more time because I'm still seeing something right there. I want y'all to notice how slow I take this process. It's not all this fast and furious I try to have a lot of control. And for production potters, this would not be a really time-worthy way to throw, but I don't get all that anxiety of the speed and the wheel going like this and your pot's going like this and you just feel a little crazy. This is more meditative. Okay, I think we're centered. Okay, so cleaning up, oh, whoops, I just spilled a lot of water on the wheel. There we go. So, cleaning up, I'm just gonna get this nice and clean, nice and dry. Because my thought about water is, the more water you leave on the surface of your pot. So this is just a quick lesson. So clay is made up of crystals and they interlock together like this, one on top of each other. They're hexagonal in shape, so they just interlock together like this. So these are 2 clay crystals, right? And as you put water on and manipulate with water and leave water in your pot or on your pot, the water gets in between those crystals and it starts to expand and expand and expand. And so later when you're drying or you're bisquing, sometimes you'll get a stress fracture in the bottom of your pot. And it's just because you've had water laying in there on top of the clay and it just separated and never could join itself back together. So I use as little water as possible, and I always clean off the bottom of my pots every time. Okay, so I'm gonna go in and pull back, and I don't go down all at once. I go down a little bit and pull back and a little bit and pull back and a little bit and pull back until I get down to the bottom. So I take these 2 fingers in my left hand and these 2 fingers in my right hand, so like that, and I'm just gonna push down about a ½ inch and I'm gonna pull all the way back, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to do that again. Just a little bit of water, and pushing down in the middle, and pulling all the way back. Good. Okay, we're going to go down a little bit further, push down, pull back. Like that. And if I feel like I've got too much water, I'll just go ahead and take that off the bottom. And again, we're going to go down and pull back all the way. Like that. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to take my needle tool and I'm going to just see how thick my bottom is. Because we don't want to go too far. Because as Katani says, if you don't have a bottom, you don't have a pot, which is absolutely true. So we don't want to go too far and go all the way through the bottom. So I'm just going to stab this. And so I've got about that much left before I will hit the bottom. So you can also do that by stopping the wheel and just putting your tool in and pulling it back, and that shows you how much you have. Okay, so I can go down one more time, and then I'll probably have to stop. So I'm going to push down and pull all the way back. Now, you can see that I've got a little bit of a spiral in there, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is take my sponge and I'm just going to try to get all of those marks out. It's kind of cool to have a spiral in the bottom of your pot. If you have enough clay down there, then it's possible. But sometimes when you put a spiral down there and your clay's too thin, the places where the spiral is low, it will crack. And I can't have a spiral. I've got very little clay left. I've got as much clay as I need down there. So I'm about 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little less than 1/4 of an inch. And I'm just going to compact my clay here. So I'm going to go back and forth with my sponge. And that's just compacting the clay. Good. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my fingernail now and make a 90-degree angle right here. So I'm going to show you on this side. So I just stick my finger, like I'm not giving you the middle finger. My middle finger is my longest finger, so I use it a lot, but probably not for this one, I shouldn't. So I'm just going to make a right angle right here with my fingernail. And if you have long fingernails, you need to cut them because they'll gouge your clay like nobody's business. Okay, so I made that 90-degree angles because my cylinder is going to, the bottom's going to be like this and the wall's going to be like that. It's going to go straight up and down. So I don't want any extra clay here. I want all that, I want to be able to use all that clay. Okay, so now I'm going to take my hands like this, just like we did before, and I'm going to push that up like that. So it's straight up and down. Like that. And now I'm going to clean this up a little bit. I'm going to clean this up so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so now this is the part of the process where we're going to pull the wall of the pot upwards. And so my thought on this process is, well, it's really Katani's thought on this process. If you pull from the middle to the top and thin this out first, right? And then you pull from the bottom to the middle and thin that out, and then you pull all the way, you don't run the risk of it getting too thin down here because you started down at the bottom every time. And that a lot of people have the problem with doing that, and then this part gets too thin and your whole pot just crinkles. I'm sure I've had that happen to me many times, so I'm sure y'all have experienced it too. So we're going to start from the middle of the pot, which is about right here, and go to the top. And every time we're going to pack our rim. So let's see if I can show you on this side. Okay, so we're going to, my fingers are like this. I'm using these two fingers and my thumb. And this finger is on the outside for support. And I'm just going to start pinching. And I'm going to let the clay go around one whole time before I start to pull up. And then I'm going to pinch one whole time, pull up. And so see how slow I'm going? And notice how slow my wheel is. Okay, and then when I get to the top, I'm going to clean my fingers off, and then I'm going to pinch like that, and I'm just going to put my index finger down on that rim. And what that's doing is keeping the clay compacted so that you don't have another place where things ripple or tear off because they get too thin. And what you're going to notice is your middle starts to move. Well, not yet. Sorry about that. That's for the next step. So we're going to push in, pinch, and then pull up gently. Notice how slow I'm going. Nice amount of control. There's no water on the bottom of my pot. So as you're throwing, start to notice, look down in there and say, hey, is there water down there? So just get it out with a sponge. Okay, so I'm going to pinch. I'm at the top, so I'm going to pinch and put my index finger on the rim, nice and compacted, right? Okay, so now this is thinned out enough. So I'm going to start to throw from the bottom to the middle. And the middle's right here. You can see it now. Okay, now what I was going to say just a minute ago is you'll start to notice the middle will start to move up. And that's fine. Okay, so again, I'm going to pinch. I made a little ridge so I can get my thumb under there, and I'm just going to start pulling that clay up. Now, when you do make the ridge, your tendency is to pull up too fast, so just go really slow as you're pulling up. And I'm not resting my hand on this rim. I have space there, okay? And a little bit more water. Okay, and we're just going to start to come up. See how the middle is rising? And then when you feel the thinness of where you started from the middle, you just stop. Okay, so that's right here now for me. Okay. I've got a little water on the bottom, so I'm going to get that up. I'm going to get the water off the wheel so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to make my little ridge here. And I'm going to start to pull up. Now see, I'm still not resting my hand there. See that? I'm going to pull all the way up to the middle. And see how far my middle has gone? It's all the way up here now. Right there. Okay? Okay, so I think I'm thinned out all the way. So I'm just going to clean this up for a second. Take a look with my hand. So I'm feeling the walls. I'm feeling how thin they are. And seeing if they're pretty even. And they are. So I'm going to do one more pull from the bottom all the way to the top. And again, I'm going to make that little ridge. And I'm going to go down here. And I'm going from the bottom all the way to the top. I'm not really thinning out as much as I'm evening, because I thinned it out enough already. And when I get to the top, I'm going to pack my rim just like that. And notice these finger marks and these, there's a little wobble right here. I'm going to clean that up with my rib. So I'm just going to take my rib, this kind of rib like this, and I'm just going to start at the bottom. So I'm placing my fingers on the inside. These two fingers are the ones that I'm using, and I'm just going to pull them up while the rib is helping me get out all those little impurities in the side. All those little finger marks and wobbles. So it's nice and straight, nice and clean. Okay, and then I'm gonna clean the rim again with my sponge. And I'm gonna round it over, just make it nice and pretty. So you just you're still pinching and you're just using your sponge to round over. And a little bit of water down there. And I'm gonna go one more time. And when I'm doing this, I'm also taking all that sludge off the side. Because again, if you leave the water on the side of your pot and it's thin enough, your pot may fall apart because the water is getting in between the crystals of clay. And one last time on the rim. Nice and clean. And then you just grab your wire tool. Oops, I grabbed two by accident. Okay. Here's your wire tool. It's hard to see, but you just wrap your fingers around like that. We're just going to pull towards us, right, like that. Perfect. And then we're going to take a look at this guy. So what we are looking for when we're throwing is for our walls to be even. And so you want the bottom and this wall to be the same thin or thickness, okay? And so we're going to cut this guy and see how it looks inside. There we go. I didn't cut it far enough down. Hold on, let me see. And that'll show us how well I did today. Not bad. There's a little thinness right here, right there. That's a little thinner than the rest of the wall, but the bottom looks good. So that's our goal, is for this wall and this wall to be the same thickness all the way up and all the way across here. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.